Welcome back to BTL Productions. Is Trump about to lower the boom on Canada again? 50% tariffs? 35% tariffs? Is he going to leave them the same? I don't know, but I got a clip for you guys, and we're going to talk about that after the intro. Hi, guys. So, Donald Trump just recently made an address from the Oval Office where he hinted at possibly raising the tariffs in Canada, which kind of caught everybody off guard a bit because he hasn't really been saying much about Canada lately. So, I'm going to roll this little clip for you guys, and after we play it, we're going to talk about it.
U.S. President Donald Trump had largely toned down his attacks on Canada for much of the Canadian election until now, as he delivered a new tariff threat.
I really don't want cars from Canada. So when I put tariffs on Canada, they're paying 25%, but that could go up in terms of cars.
There is already a 25% tariff on all foreign-made autos, but CUSMA-compliant goods are exempt for now. There's also border security tariffs of 25% on all goods, with a lower 10% on energy and potash. Again, CUSMA-compliant goods are also exempt. And there's the global 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum.
We don't really want Canada to make cars for us, to put it bluntly. We want to make our own cars.
During an Oval Office event, Trump revisited some of his favorite complaints about Canada, including his exaggerated claims about the size of the trade deficit and support the U.S. provides to its ally.
I mean, why are we doing that? And I have to be honest, as a state, it works great. As a nation, considering the fact that most of the nation, 95% of Canada, what they do is they buy from us and they sell to us. If they didn't have us, and if we didn't spend that money, as Trudeau told me, they would cease to exist.
Now, Canada, if I may. This is in line with what the White House press secretary told CBC News during a news conference last week.
He believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state.
While Trump's message on Canada remains the same, he's made plenty of confusing statements about his global trade war. Journalists urgently seeking clarity at every opportunity as he pushes ahead with his ever-evolving plan.
We're no longer going to be the country that's ripped off by every country in the world.
At this point, there's no official word from the White House about a formal change to the tariff policy on Canada. So right now, it is status quo. This remains yet another threat from President Trump.
So, first of all, I'm going to say I think that in this clip, he's trying to be typical Donald Trump, playing the tough guy. He's going to lower the boom on everybody, that sort of thing. He likes to do that, works well with his base and that. And yeah, well, as we all know, he shifts in his opinions of what he wants and what he's going to do from one end of the day to the next, sometimes 1 hour to the next. So he didn't really indicate how much he wanted to raise the tariffs by. He just said, he didn't even say he was going to do it for sure. He just, we kind of talking about it. So, whatever. He stated in there he doesn't want cars from Canada. He doesn't want them to be part of their auto industry. Well, I'm sorry, Donald, but these two countries are so integrated. The supply chain is so integrated that it would take a lot longer than your term in office to actually unravel that. But anyhow, we'll see. I mean, the supply chain is so integrated in here that, I don't know. Something important, though, I think a lot of people miss on this is that Canada is the number one purchaser of American-made cars outside of the U.S., that is. So we're talking in the neighborhood of 700 to 720,000 vehicles being bought from the U.S. every year. That's essentially the equivalent of about 3 assembly plants worth of production. So, is a trade war with Canada, who is not undercutting your jobs, like, say, Mexico, China, where people there work for virtually nothing, is it worth losing that market? Because I'm going to point, as I pointed out this before, but I'm going to mention it again because I think it's very applicable in this situation. But let's rewind a few years here. Now, Oshawa, Ontario has 2 General Motors plants. General Motors shut down one of the plants. They said it was done. They're getting rid of it. Well, guess what? The sales of GM vehicles in this country tanked. They tanked her after this. Now, it was a couple years before COVID and that, so I mean, the data is pretty obvious on that time. Now, we get into COVID, it kind of goes wonky, as we all know. You know, everything was kind of different then. So, but it definitely showed a marked decrease in vehicles. And then, a couple of years down the road, Jim, just out of the blue, brings back production to the second Oshawa plant. They knew they were losing. I mean, Canadians could very well go and purchase vehicles from other manufacturers outside of the U.S. Toyota, Honda, Mazda, Subaru, whatever, what have you, like European, Japanese, whatever. So, is it worth losing all that over this? Now, Donald Trump's not stupid. And I hate having to bring politics into this channel so much, but these days it's pretty much impossible not to do it. And I'm not going to take side with any one party or the other. I'm going to tell you when I think they did something good, and I'm going to tell you when I think they're being stupid. And I think this tariff war is stupid. But there's been a couple little comments dropped by current Prime Minister Carney and President Donald Trump about the two of them talking. I think there have been some talks going on behind the scenes. I know there was a very, publicly noted conversation between the two shortly after Mark Carney was put in as prime minister after the departure of Justin Trudeau. But since then, there hasn't really been anything. I think there's something going on behind the scenes. I don't know how the election's going to roll out here. I mean, it's coming up next Monday. This coming Monday, more so. And it's going to depend on who gets in. Right now, it's kind of leading in that direction, but the polls are definitely within the margin of error here right now. So I think who gets in is going to make a big difference to this situation and what happens. My prediction. Some reason Donald Trump, he seems to like Mark Carney. I haven't really said why exactly, but I'm going to wager a guess it's probably because they both come from very similar backgrounds, both being businessmen, and maybe they just understand each other better. My next prediction is that this tariff thing will be sorted out after the Canadian election. I'm going to say that it's more likely to be sorted out in a positive manner for the workers and the companies and the country with Mark Carney, just because of the way Donald Trump seems to be receiving him a lot better than Pierre Poilievre He doesn't seem to like him, but there's been a little bit of personal attacks back and forth between the two. So I think maybe that might be part of it. So I don't know. But I think a deal either way will be ironed out once the Canadian election is finished, because he's been talking and making deals with other countries around the world. But at the moment, with the Canadian government shut down and the pending election, I think that's why this has been kind of put on the back burner. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion on this. I mean, losing the Canadian business, and the tariffs themselves could have the potential to cost car companies $107 billion with a B dollars and $42 billion with a B dollars to Canadian automakers alone. So this is huge. Now, the other dangerous thing is that May 3rd comes in the tariffs on the parts makers, which could be even more catastrophic for them, because a lot of these companies are a lot smaller, and there's a lot of them that they're just going to cease to exist if these tariffs come in, like he says they're going to on May 3rd. So it's a very dangerous time in the auto industry right now. I understand Donald Trump's trying to bring jobs back to the U.S., and I can appreciate that, but you need to target the countries that are actually taking away your jobs. It's not Canada. Anyhow, that's my view from behind the wheel. Like and subscribe to the channel. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.